Everyone knows Paul McCartney as the charming Beatle, but few realize just how fiercely he guarded his musical standards and which bands allegedly felt the sharp edge of his criticism. Top 6 rock bands Paul McCartney hated the most is not just a list. It is a journey into the private grudges and public spats that rocked the music world. From a frosty exchange inside Buckingham Palace to bitter words about superstar bands, McCartney's perfectionism reportedly sparked legendary feuds and unforgettable put-downs. But what could make the world's most beloved songwriter allegedly turn on fellow icons? The answer starts with a jaw-dropping incident that stunned even his closest peers. Brace yourself, because this is only number 6. June 3rd, 2002. Buckingham Palace is brimming with musicians, royalty, and the kind of nerves that only come with a once-in-a-lifetime gig. The Party at the Palace concert is meant to celebrate the golden jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II, but for one rock legend, the night will be remembered for something else entirely. Phil Collins, already a superstar in his own right, walks into the palace with a first-edition copy of Hunter Davies' official Beatles biography tucked under his arm. It's not just any book. It's a badge of lifelong fandom, a tangible link to musical history. Collins, like so many, grew up idolizing the Beatles. When he finally gets his moment with Paul McCartney, the excitement is real. He asks for an autograph, the simplest of requests among musicians. But sources say McCartney, standing beside then-wife Heather Mills, takes one look at the book, then turns to her with a smirk and says, "Oh, Heather, our little Phil's a bit of a Beatles fan." Collins, as he later told interviewers, was left frozen. UF, never forgot it. Collins didn't hide the sting when he spoke about the encounter years later. In 2016 interviews, he described McCartney as having a way of speaking that left others feeling diminished. He has this thing when he's talking to you, where he makes you feel like, I know this must be hard for you because I'm a Beatle. The jab cut deep. Despite McCartney's later attempts to smooth things over, Collins insisted the wound never healed. What truly allegedly infuriated Collins was not just the comment itself, but the dismissive attitude it revealed, an attitude many have chalked up to McCartney's reputation for perfectionism and uncompromising standards. For Paul, authenticity was everything. Flattery and hero worship didn't impress him. But if you think that was intense, wait until you see what happens when McCartney's competitive edge collides with the world's most legendary bands. The tension is only getting started. The Britpop explosion of the 1990s brought more than just new chart toppers. It delivered a fresh wave of ego, and Oasis was leading the charge. By 1996, Noel Gallagher stood on MTV wide-eyed and utterly convinced, declaring his band was bigger than the Beatles. It was not a passing boast. He repeated the claim, insisting that Oasis's back-to-back successes left John, Paul, George, and Ringo in the dust. The music press ran wild with it. Headlines screamed about a changing of the guard. For Paul McCartney, this was not just noise. It hit a nerve. According to a 1997 Irish Times profile, McCartney fired back with a blunt assessment. They're derivative and they think too much of themselves. They mean nothing to me. It was not just the swagger that stung. It was the way Oasis wrapped themselves in Beatles nostalgia while announcing they had surpassed their heroes. McCartney, raised on the discipline of songwriting craft and restless innovation, reportedly saw the move as the ultimate display of self-importance. To him, authenticity meant earning your place, not proclaiming it. The tension did not fade. On a 2001 Howard Stern interview, McCartney explained his frustration. "I started off saying, they're okay. I wish them good luck. But then they started to badmouth us and stuff. They started to say, we're much better, man. In the end, I did not badmouth them that much. I've just said they are slightly derivative." The word derivative wasn't an accident. For McCartney, it summed up everything he found lacking in Oasis. Bold claims resting on borrowed melodies. What truly allegedly infuriated McCartney, sources suggest, was the idea that years of innovation could be overshadowed by a brash headline. He saw the Oasis approach as proof that commercial hype could sometimes drown out the hard-won lessons of musical evolution. While the feud cooled in later years, the mid-90s Oasis rivalry revealed McCartney's fierce loyalty to originality and his unforgiving standard for what deserves to be called legendary. And if that shocked you, buckle up, because the real fireworks, peer legends going head-to-head with McCartney, are just getting started. Forget the tabloid drama of the 1990s. This rivalry has roots stretching back to the birth of British rock itself. The Beatles and the Rolling Stones spent decades in the public eye, trading chart positions and shaping the sound of a generation. But beneath the surface, the competition ran deeper than friendly rivalry. Paul McCartney, never one to hide his opinions on musical craftsmanship, made his feelings unmistakably clear in an October 2000 interview with The New Yorker. He hesitated for a moment, then delivered the blow. "I am not sure I should say it, but they are a blues cover band. That is sort of what the Stones are. I think our net was cast a bit wider than theirs." The words ricocheted through the music press, reigniting a debate that had simmered for over 50 years. According to the article, McCartney saw the Beatles as innovators, mixing genres, breaking boundaries, while he reportedly viewed the Stones as sticking too closely to their R&B roots. The Stones did not let it slide. Just weeks later at SoFi Stadium, Mick Jagger paused mid-show, the stadium buzzing, and tossed McCartney's own words back at him. "Paul McCartney is here. He is going to join us in a blues cover later on." The crowd erupted. It was a masterclass in rock star one-upmanship. Public, cheeky, impossible to ignore. Rolling Stone later reported that Keith Richards received a personal message from McCartney, claiming he had been taken totally out of context. But the damage, or perhaps the legend, was already done. Richards told the press McCartney was a great guy, but the famous guitarist left no doubt that the competitive jabs were real. What truly allegedly infuriated McCartney, sources suggest, was the idea that the Stones succeeded by honing a single style, while the Beatles risked everything on constant reinvention. For Paul, playing it safe was the ultimate musical sin. Yet, with every exchange, the bar for rock's upper echelon climbed even higher. A battle of legacies waged in interviews, lyrics, and stadium spotlights. But what you just heard is nothing compared to the next on the list. The upcoming feud takes McCartney's standards for originality to a whole new level, where imitation meets outright provocation. Trust me, we are just getting warmed up here. Led Zeppelin's arrival in the early 1970s sent shockwaves through the rock world, setting a new standard for sheer force and spectacle. With sold-out arenas, blinding light shows, and enough amplifiers to shake a stadium's foundations, Zeppelin built their legend on volume and bravado. To millions, this was the new sound of power. But some insiders claim not everyone was impressed. Least of all Paul McCartney, a man known for weighing every note and chord with surgical precision. Steve Kelly, a former member of McCartney's European tour crew, reportedly recounted one especially biting moment from the 2003 soundcheck at Hamburg's Lipa event, where McCartney was preparing for a charity performance. According to Kelly's 2018 memoir, the discussion backstage drifted to the legacy of Zeppelin, whose bombastic performances had dominated the same arenas Paul now filled. As the crew bantered about Zeppelin's epic guitar solos and thunderous drumming, McCartney allegedly shook his head and quipped, "It's not about how loud you play. Anyone can turn up an amp. Try writing something people remember in the morning." That alleged remark, delivered in a room buzzing with technical crew and young musicians, captured McCartney's lifelong fixation on melody, structure, and the kind of songwriting that endures long after the crowd noise fades. For Paul, Zeppelin's maximalist style, months on the road, firework displays, 20-minute drum solos, felt like a distraction from substance. He was known to bristle at the idea that making it bigger meant making it better. What truly allegedly infuriated McCartney, those close to him say, was the idea that Zeppelin's spectacle threatened to drown out the painstaking craft he'd spent decades defending. While Zeppelin fans worshipped at the altar of excess, McCartney kept his faith in arrangements you could whistle on the way home. And if you think standards like these are harsh, just wait. The upcoming snub takes McCartney's demand for authenticity to a whole new level, one where chart-topping bands get dismissed with barely a sideways glance. The real shockers are still ahead. Coldplay's rise in the late 2000s put them at the epicenter of global pop, with Viva La Vida dominating charts and stadiums sold out from Tokyo to Toronto. Their lush production values and carefully orchestrated image drew praise from critics and millions of fans. But behind closed doors, not everyone bought into the hype. According to music journalist John Harris, who recounted the scuttlebutt in a 2015 blog post, a certain Grammy afterparty in 2008 turned frosty when McCartney's opinion came up among industry insiders. Though there is no record of a direct confrontation, Harris reported that McCartney viewed Coldplay's sound as polished to a fault, with sources claiming he dismissed them as all showroom, no soul. What truly allegedly infuriated McCartney, those close to him say, was the sense that Coldplay's carefully engineered pop ran counter to everything he believed authentic songwriting should be. For Paul, music had to have grit, a mark of the studio floor still clinging to every chord. The line he reportedly dropped, barely above a mutter, said everything. You can polish a diamond too much. It just stops shining. According to Harris's account, the remark circulated quickly, stinging a band that prided itself on perfection. But if you think that's cold, the next band in McCartney's crosshairs reportedly pushed his philosophy to its breaking point. The real philosophical showdown is coming, and trust me, it's going to get much, much messier. Radiohead's ascent in the late 1990s signaled a new era of rock, one where mood, texture, and digital anxiety replaced the soaring melodies of previous generations. Critics hailed albums like OK Computer and Kid A as masterpieces, bending the boundaries of what rock could be. But within industry circles, stories began circulating of a quiet but stubborn impasse between Paul McCartney and Radiohead's Tom York. According to a 2012 interview with promoter Jane Dalton, whispers from the Glastonbury backstage circuit often cited a lingering friction, not from a tabloid shouting match, but from a deeper clash of musical philosophy. McCartney, ever the champion of melody and classic songcraft, reportedly found Radiohead's experimental leanings perplexing. Sources allege that, when pressed about the band's avant-garde direction, McCartney once sighed, "You can't hum a computer." The supposed standoff wasn't about personal animosity, but a fundamental disagreement: melody versus mood, the lasting chorus against atmospheric abstraction. For McCartney, a song needed to stick in your mind, not just wash over you. Those close to York, meanwhile, suggest the band viewed McCartney's devotion to form as nostalgia, out of step with a changing world. The tension reportedly reached its peak as word spread backstage that neither camp was willing to budge. Radiohead doubling down on sonic experimentation, McCartney holding the line for melody's primacy. And if you think that's as heated as it gets, brace yourself. The final entries on this list bring McCartney's standards to their most uncompromising extremes yet. Throughout this countdown, we've reviewed 6 of the most publicized alleged clashes between Paul McCartney and fellow rock bands, drawing on incidents documented from 2002's Buckingham Palace event with Phil Collins to McCartney's 2021 remarks about the Rolling Stones. Verified sources such as the 2003 Hamburg soundcheck story and the 2008 Grammys after-party rumors have revealed a clear pattern. McCartney's reported criticism often stems from his uncompromising standards for musical authenticity and craftsmanship. Yet some details remain uncertain. Several anecdotes like the Coldplay and Radiohead showdowns rely on backstage accounts and secondhand reports, leaving parts of these stories unconfirmed. What is clear is that McCartney's perfectionism, as evidenced in interviews and memoirs, shaped his relationships and fueled legendary rivalries. These documented feuds highlight how artistic conviction can inspire both conflict and creativity in music. As newly released interviews and archival footage continue to emerge, debate remains over which feud truly cut the deepest. Which story surprised you most? Let us know in the comments below.